Dr. Moore, thanks for your time. Here is the first day is just around the corner. What's the thing top of your mind?
Making sure we open up schools where we're going to be in absolute complete service of our students, making sure buses run on time, teachers are prepared and ready. So going into this final week of preparation, significant amount of professional learning for our teachers, preparing everything and everybody to ensure that we have a great experience for everyone in our community on August 12th.
Congratulations on another A. What do you attribute that rating to?
So second A in a row, 95% of our schools are an A or a B, which is the first time in the system's history that we've ever had that level of success. It's just being focused on what matters the most, students, and making absolutely no excuses on how we're going to problem solve, look at all the obstacles and challenges that stand in the way, and really learn as fast as we possibly can. Figure out what can we possibly do to create a unique experience for each and every single child to maximize their learning, and it's paying off in a huge way.
Can you give me an example of that? I'd imagine there's plenty of times where you could have leaned on an excuse in a situation or not. Is there something that really jumps out to what Indian River County Schools does maybe differently?
So our primary difference is we hold ourselves accountable to ensuring that our leadership teams at school can solve problems faster than anyone else across the state. So when they see a barrier or obstacle, they have the ability to really problem solve. They're empowered to make decisions. We don't wait to make decisions in our county. They don't need the approval of the district administrator or myself, the superintendent. They have the authority to figure out what needs to be done. We say we want to make decisions as close to kids as possible. So we don't have to wait 4 months for a mid-year assessment to figure out where we need to change something. Our principals and teachers deeply understand what good instruction looks like and the impacts of good instruction, and we're seeing it and observing it each and every single day. And then we're stepping outside, we're problem solving and figuring out what do we need to tweak tomorrow to better improve the quality of instruction for all learners.
Your exact words right there were, we make sure that all of our, I had it about instruction. Make sure everyone knows what proper instruction looks like, I believe is what you just said. How do you do that?
Well, unwavering commitment around that kind of learning. So all of our professional learning really has been focused on making sure our principals for the last 4.5 years really understand what quality instruction looks like. A deep understanding of what the standards are and how you align quality instruction to address those standards. So this isn't something that happens overnight. This is going on 4.5 years of constant development where we're constantly making sure that we just don't have leaders in our schools, we have instructional leaders. And if you're going to be an administrator in Indian River County, you have to be a quality educator first, and you never step or walk away from embracing education in terms of teaching. So we have master teachers who are serving as principals and assistant principals.
Are you, once again, not having an issue with a larger number of teacher openings?
So right now we have 11 instructional openings, which is under 1%. So we're very, very proud of that. We continue to invest in each and every single person that we hire. We challenge our principals to make sure that they have cultures in their school where they're warm, they're embracing, where we're having a whole bunch of fun. This is powerful, important work, but it's also fun work when you create a culture and you connect adults to each other and you do this work together. It ultimately resolves that retention problem. So the fact that we only have 11 openings is something we're very proud of. We're going to continue to make sure that allows us to continue to grow and succeed.
A lot of districts that have openings are finding issues with finding special education and STEM teachers. Are those where you find the most struggles trying to find competent teachers?
Not necessarily the STEAM teachers for us, but the exceptional education teachers, yes, that would probably be the highest number of openings that we do have. We have very specific plans in place. We're a classroom first district, so we will take folks at the district level and place them in front of kids until we find those openings. So we're not going to waste any time in terms of not providing quality instruction. We have people at the district who can step in and provide that instruction as we continue to look for the people who can be the long-term solution for those students.
Did you use all of your ESSER funds?
Absolutely, 100%. We've been very, very systematic over the last 4 years of using those funds. Very, very intentional. And a lot of our success comes at the result of using those funds really to enhance the quality of instruction and provide additional time for students and additional resources for students to make up any instruction that they may have lost.
What does that look specifically?
So additional interventions, after school interventions, making sure that we're buying the most appropriate resources. So we have adopted a reading material that is absolutely top-notch, based on the science of reading, provided quality training, where most times you just buy what you can absolutely afford, and it doesn't have all of the tier 2 or tier 3 interventions, the additional support students may have, with all of the consumables that students would use. So rather than copying it out of the book, they have the workbook that they can write right into. It becomes very easy for the student, for the family, for the teacher. So buying the absolute best resources, and that's a investment that we will have for the next 3 or 4 years with the one-time funds that we had from ESSER.
So you used most of your ESSER funds for, as you say, consumables, not as much for positions.
We did use positions, and it was very strategic. So one of the things that we did, this district didn't have middle school counselors in elementary school, if you can imagine that. So we were able to add those counselors right away, and then over the course of the 4 years, work our budget so we can continue to have those positions. So although we used ESSER as immediate response to have that critical position in place for our elementary schools, we were able to continue to have those things. In our secondary schools, we actually moved to an 8-period day, and that 8-period day allowed us to provide additional intervention courses, additional reading and math courses for our students, and not having to take away the fun enriching courses or electives that they would take. And what that did over the course of 2 years, we used ESSER funds to do that, allowed us to give those interventions in the confines of the school day without taking away all of the fun things that really, really bring kids into the school.
So are those interventions continuing even?
So we're back to a 7-period day. And as you can see, based on our result, we were very intentional of using those intervention courses to get kids back up to where they need to be. The fact of the reality is we are one of the few districts in the state of Florida that are actually in a better academic place today than we were before the pandemic. So the learning loss that may have been experienced across the state or nation isn't a real thing in Indian River County, because our students are outperforming where they were before the pandemic took place.
So does that mean that what word would you use to describe where Indian River County's literacy rates are right now?
What word?
How would you describe them?
So when you look at the outcome of Indian River County for the last 3 years, we have been the district that is the most improved school district. So when you look at state rankings in 18-19, we were 38 of 67. The results that were just released, we are now number 9 in the state of Florida. So that's an improvement of 29 state rankings, where no other district has grown that fast over the course of that same period of time. In fact, most districts will grow to go back down to, they're within this plus or minus of 2 to 5 positions over the course of that same time period. And there's one district that stands in top for the last 3 years. We've been growing faster for the last 3 years. So we're very, very proud of that.
And you attribute those consumables that you got?
Well, we contribute just, we will not take any excuses. We understand there are barriers and obstacles. We understand that there's a culture war that puts public education sometimes right in the center of that debate. But at the end of the day, we are this community's public education system, and all students are going to be welcome to our classrooms, and we're going to keep the main thing. Quality education in environments where kids feel safe, they feel comfortable, and they know they can come in and release the weight of the world and focus in on quality instruction.
I wasn't going to ask you about the book ban stuff, but that's kind of what it feels like.
For Indian River County, you have to.
You have to, right? I mean, where do you feel like we are at with that right now?
So I think we are in an absolutely outstanding place. We understand what state law has put in place. We fully comply with that. The reality is, our media center should be fun, embracing places where all students can go and check out books and not have to worry. And that's the reality in Indian River County. So we are in service of our community. The debate can continue to happen, but at the end of the day, it's the school system's responsibility to ensure that we're fully compliant with what the state has in place, and we continue to have our focus on students and ensuring there's 180 days of quality instruction that allow the students to continually progress and master the standards.
Do you think that it's unfair that you've had to deal with all of these book ban questions?
I don't think that it's a effective superintendent would have to say that it's unfair. It's reality. And at the end of the day, how do you not get lost in that? How do you not allow that distraction to become a reason you're not the highest performing or highest improving school district in the state? So we absorb that between the board and myself. I try to keep my team clearly focused in on being in classrooms, while at the same time, understanding the law, implementing the policies the way they have been written and approved, so we can keep that main thing the main thing. So we're very, very proud of how we've been able to reduce the amount of time that we've had to spend on distractions to maximize the amount of time that we can spend on improving the quality of instruction.
We just recently did a story about the vaping monitors in the bathrooms. I've spoken to a couple of other superintendents that say what they've seen, it's not worth the investment. Why do you believe that's the case, that they are worth the investment?
Well, the reality is you let everybody know that you do in fact have them, and it becomes a deterrent. I don't think there's a one fix-all solution, but it is a comprehensive solution. So having them there and having it connected to our cameras allows us to fully ensure students understand there are consequences when you're misusing that time in the bathroom. You have to use it for what it's intended to do. For us, we've seen very little damages or breakages. They are in cases, and it really forces the students to know that in Indian River County schools, you're going to be supervised. And our own sole expectation is that you're going to adhere to the rules so you can have a great time while you're there, and you're going to leave with a quality education. So it has, for us, served as a positive strategy. It has drastically reduced the incidents around vaping over the last 2.5 years. The data is abundantly clear. The events go down. Still need to continue to go down, but from where they were, that strategy has really paid off.
How do you feel about the possibility of metal detectors? Have you looked into that?
So we started metal detectors in both of our high schools the second semester. So fully in place, we're able to get students in a school that has 2,400 students, another school that has 1,800 students, without missing 1 minute of instruction. So this is a partnership with our sheriff's office where we've invested in the best technology in terms of the metal detectors to get students in as quickly as possible. And it makes sure that as students are coming in, they know that they will be safe, which is an exhale for them so they can focus in on the instruction. We'll make sure everyone is in dress code. We'll make sure everyone has the student ID. At the end of the day, the student, Nicholas Cruz at Stoneman Douglas, he walked into that school. And if they would have had a full ID system in place, you would have known just because he had the uniform shirt on, he didn't have the idea he's out of place, and maybe having that system went in place. So we're very intentional about making sure students, when they're in our schools, they feel safe. They know they're safe because we're extremely intentional about putting this all the safeguards in place around them. So it's just going to be a warm, comfortable environment from the time that bell rings until the time that they leave.
I know after they leave and they go to their after-school activities, they're the new rule with the legislature that makes sure that every single entry point is either manned or locked. Do you feel like Indian River County is prepared to handle that?
The expectation is huge, and our security teams over the course of the summer have worked extremely hard to create the protocols in order to ensure that we can comply with that law. Because we've been so intentional for the last 7-8 years around safety and security, we're probably positioned in a better way than most districts. But it is taking the time to ensure the gate opens, the gate closes. So we will continue to monitor that, because these are a lot of adult behaviors that we're going to have to create to make sure students stay within the confines of where they're supposed to be, and we're keeping the gates locked. So it is a high bar to meet, but we have no other choice.
How about cameras on the bus signs, stop signs? Is that something that you're instituting?
So we will be working with our sheriff's office to explore how we could possibly do that. We are very interested in doing that. We want to make sure that students are safe from the time they get on the bus as well as when they get off the bus. It is a community-wide effort to make sure when student gets on the bus or off the bus that we're adhering to those laws and procedures that are in place. And this is just one additional step that would help us ensure everyone in our community understands when you're breaking those laws, or you get a little frustrated because you have to wait a few extra seconds, maybe a bad decision ultimately could have a tragic result, and we want to do everything we can to avoid that from happening.
Do you feel like the sheriff's office is on board with helping you with that?
Yes.
Okay. A few of the other local districts have looked into possibly tweaking their cell phone rules with pockets and other things. How do you feel about, is your cell phone policy working?
I think most districts across the state are catching up to what Indian River County did last year. So we modified our cell phone policy last year under the leadership of our board. So in middle schools and below, the bell rings and they're away. And it has drastically helped us improve on the results that you see. Teachers are so thankful that they're not cell phone police, they're curriculum experts, and they're providing quality instruction, and they no longer have that disruption. In high schools, it is away from the time that bell rings until the ringing of the conclusion of that class. And our seniors have done a really, really good job of adhering to that privilege that they have, because at the end of the day, or at the end of last year, we evaluated and said, do we have to treat our high school students as middle schoolers? And they proved to us that they can keep them away, they will not be out during instructional time, and they won't be misused. Meaning we're not going to be using phones to video inappropriate behavior or make fun of somebody. The cyberbullying prior to this policy was a constant time waster. So we've been drastically at all levels been able to improve the amount of time of students being on task, because we take a zero tolerance around the misuse of cell phones.
Certainly around the state, we're seeing more parents turn to homeschooling and pod schooling, and because of the voucher program, obviously. Are you expecting that for this school year?
So right now, just prior to you coming in and setting up all these cameras and lights, we reviewed enrollment, and our enrollment is actually in a higher place today than it was at the beginning of last school year, and that's encouraging. And we will continue to communicate to our entire community that we are the #1 choice in Indian River County. And we are committed to completely transforming what public education looks like. At the end of the day, 4 years ago, prior to the pandemic, one of the first things I asked the board to do was to change a policy that allowed every single school in our district to serve as a choice school. Competition is here to stay. We are competing for the right to educate our community's children, and we're going to create innovative new approaches in order to do that. Charter schools and homeschool environments, they aren't the only ones who can be innovative. We have the buildings, we have the resources, we have the technology. Who better to reform public education than public schools?
I think that's a great place to end. Dr. Moore, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you.